G'day folks, and welcome back to the channel for a showcase video of my patch 1.2 Cold Forcewave Battlemage build. If you're looking for a meta build, then go ahead and head on to the next video, because this ain't it. This is a certified horrible build that you shouldn't play because it's really bad. Yet in spite of that, it functions perfectly well, being able to do SR80 within 7 to 9 minutes. Not blazingly fast, but it will get it done. This is an endgame evolution of the Forcewave Soldier I recently leveled. In that series I actually leveled a Death Knight, but I said at the start that you can level any soldier combo with that method, and this Battle Mage is the product of that. You can find the full guided playthrough series of the Death Knight in the playlist section of the channel, and I will include a Battle Mage Grimtools link for use in following that playthrough in the comments of this video. So you level this character in the same style as it plays at level 100. It'll be doing physical damage, and then you'll swap to cold at level 100. This cold build will also work for other soldier mastery combinations, as I said, and it would absolutely do more damage and just generally be better as a Witchblade, Warden, or a Tactician, but I wanted to make a Battle Mage, so we've got a Battle Mage. With that said, let's get into the build. First up is the items. A large part of the motivation to make this build was to get these items out of my stash and actually do something with them. This probably should have been a Reaper to take better advantage of the Morganeth set, but like I said, I wanted a Battle Mage, so here we are. The only set we're using is 3 pieces of the Morganeth set. This set drops from the Skeleton Key dungeon, the Tomb of the Heretic, and we're only using 3 pieces because the 4-piece bonus is a whole bunch of skill points that we can't use, and while the portals are fun, they aren't very strong. 3 pieces of Morganeth's set gives us a large chunk of health and armor, and the 2-piece bonus gives us some nice damage. The individual pieces provide bonuses to cold damage, cold to lightning conversion, and some lifesteal. For our weapon, we are using Soul Rend for its huge cold damage, lifesteal, and cold damage proc. I did try out the mythical Arcanor, Blade of the Luminari, but it was converting too much damage away from cold, and ultimately was less damage. The Meteor Shower active was fun, and the way it changes the Forcewave graphic is very pretty though. For our jewelry, we're using the only cold resist reduction proc available to us on the Band of the Eternal Haunt, and the Ring of Anubar, the cold-based Magi's Ring. I've been collecting Magi's Rings for a while now, and this is the first build that I'm actually going to use one on. They're nice rings, but generally you won't resist reduction procs, but in this case there just isn't a second cold resist reduction ring, so Anubar. Our amulet is the Conduit of Warring Whispers. This is the Soldier Conduit, and this specific one has cold conversion for Forcewave. This is a crafted amulet with a large number of potential bonuses. The blueprint for it you can find at the vendor inside the Tomb of the Heretic. This is easily going to cost you over 100 Ugden Blooms to craft unless you get very, very lucky. Not to mention, I think it's 160,000 iron bits a shot. Make sure you have deep pockets. This converts Forcewave entirely to cold damage and also adds extra cold damage. It also comes with +1 to soldier skills and a large chunk of health. Our medal is the mythical Death Chill Mark. We're taking this for the extra flat cold damage, and that's honestly about it. There aren't a lot of good options here. For our relic, we're using Serenity. This has a circuit breaker on it, as well as +1 to all skills in both of our masteries. Pants are the mythical Rhymestone leg guards, which were chosen because of the cold damage, physical resistance, and the Ice Nova proc. These are very optional, and you could easily substitute them out for a good pair of Soleil Sect leg guards, or any number of other options. Boots, I'm using Morganeth's Step, continuing the theme of the build. These give us some lifesteal when we get hit, and provide another cold damage proc. You could quite happily swap these boots out for Windshear Greaves, Wraith Walkers, or even Stone Treaders if you wanted to be more defensive. For the helmet, I've taken Korvax Horns, partly to get it out of my stash, but also because it has an elemental proc, casting speed, and good resistance, as well as +1 soldier skills. The damage proc is really nice for clearing crowds, and shredding resistances for monsters not directly standing in the elemental storm. Lastly, the belt is a green belt that I had left over from grinding belts for the Death Knight. This is basically here for +1 to soldier, and +2 to Forcewave to add levels to that. With that said, if you don't want to grind crabs for hours, I would want to use the mythical Phantom Thread Girdle. This would give +1 to all Arcanist skills, +3 to fighting form, and +3 to rending force, as well as a 9% chance to avoid melee attacks, a huge pile of offensive ability, and elemental damage. Having all of these purples, though, would cause issues with resistances, so you may want to play around with augments and maybe swap the pants out for a good green in order to cap your resistances. In terms of skills, this is a soldier build, with only support being needed from the secondary mastery. This is why I said this could work for any soldier mastery combination, and other masteries would have better support because they have resistance shredding in their classes. This particular version is a Battlemage though, so we've got some skills from Arcanist. Maven's Sphere is taken for the huge damage absorption. Iskandra's Elemental Exchange is a 1-pointer to gain access to Overload for the large bonuses to offensive ability. Star Pact is our exclusive, giving cold damage and some physical and aether conversion to cold, as well as some cooldown reduction. We also take a lot of the Arcanist passives along the bottom of the tree, giving huge buffs to Spirit, offensive ability, a Purge ability that we can use on enemies or to cleanse Sunder from ourselves, casting speed, and 10% increased damage to Ethereals and Chthonics. Most of our points are in the soldier tree, starting with our main skill, Forcewave. This is sadly not capped because apparently no one thought that anyone would want to use that cold Forcewave conduit. Rending Force is also not capped for the same reason, and Internal Trauma has just 1 point for the slower enemy attacks. Reflected damage over time does hurt, and putting more points here would simply get us killed for very little benefit. We'd be overriding the dot several times a second, and the damage is a type we're not scaling anyway, so this is not very relevant. We're using Blitz and Blindside as both a movement skill, as well as for shredding enemy defensive ability, so we can crit more often, and Warcry is used for reducing enemy damage. For buffs, we've taken all the soldier passives, with extra points in Fighting Spirit, Military Conditioning, and Scars of Battle. Field Command and Squad Tactics are taken for extra armor, offensive ability, defensive ability, and the Go Faster juice. In terms of devotions, this is a hardcore character, so I have included the turtle shell pretty much as standard with most of my hardcore characters. It's also a two-handed character, so the Kraken is not really required, but it's pretty close. The Solemn Watcher is a good defensive constellation and usually is good to take on high armor characters. Bard's Harp is not seen very often, but this is basically taken for offensive and defensive ability. Over here we have the Chariot of the Dead, again for large amounts of offensive ability, both percent and flat, and also for the healing proc at the end of it. All of the other things in this tree are either taken as resistance shredding, because the classes themselves don't have any, or are used to get points in order to get the resistance shredding. 3 points in the Rowan's Crown gets Elemental Storm, which provides 32 reduced targets elemental resistances, as well as some minor damage. We have Murmur, Mistress of Rumors, and the Rumor proc here is the main source of percent cold resistance we have. And we also have Altos, Shepherds of Storms, Hand of Altos here providing 20% reduced elemental resistances, and we are converting large amounts of the lightning damage to cold damage. The Crab is included because the Crab is an elemental defensive node, and I just like the Arcane Barrier. For anyone who's crazy enough to want to make your own copy of this certified horrible build that you shouldn't play because it's really bad, I will include a Grimtools link in the description below, and that will take you to a timeline of how to get all of the constellations you need for this devotion setup. To show how the build performs, this is a run I did of Shattered Realm Shard 80, and I'm going to speed this up to double to get through it a bit faster. This is a 10-minute run where I clear all the bosses I run into, and I think Shattered Realm 80, even a slightly slower run like this, is a good benchmark to say that the build is okay. I'm going to let this run now, and I'll see you at the end of it. Timestamps are below if you wish to skip forwards. That was Shattered Realm 80, completed in just under 10 minutes with Iron Maiden, Valdoran, Seeker of the Damned, Kubacabra, and then Valdoran again. 10 minutes for Shattered Realm 80 is not a great time, and I deliberately showed a 10-minute SR80 run to make sure that people are aware that this build is a bit slow to kill anything that has cold resistances. Kubacabra was 2 minutes, Seeker of the Damned was another 2 minutes, and in a previous run, Musiloki was almost 4. Almost half of this run was packed into killing 2 monsters. With that said, you can get good runs with no heavily cold resistant nemesis spawns, and I have done a 6-minute SR80 run with this character. It's just down to what spawns. Damage aside, this build was able to generally face tank SR80, even while sundered, with my health never dropping particularly low, in spite of having only 16% physical resistance and under 15,000 health. Maven Sphere, defensive devotions, a huge pile of armor, and a decent pile of lifesteal is enough to keep us alive. I knew going into this character that most of the top builders consider Battlemage to be a meme outside of a handful of physical builds. I object to this, as I consider any build that can face tank Shattered Realm 80 and comfortably clear it, even if a few minutes slower than the best optimized builds, to be well out of meme build territory and firmly into the viable category. This isn't going to be winning speedrun competitions, but that was never my intent. I picked a mastery combo that is considered a meme. I picked a skill that most people think of as a leveling skill to be abandoned once you're level 100. It's not, but that's another discussion. And then I converted it to an almost completely unsupported damage type and was still able to clear Shattered Realm 80 in a reasonable time frame. I'm calling this a win. I don't know that I would recommend this build, as there are other better builds to do, but this does work, and if you want a cold Forcewave Battlemage of your own, links will be below for how to do it. If you've got this far into the video, then I'd just like to thank you for watching, and ask that you like the video if you've enjoyed it or found it helpful. Stay tuned for more Grim Dawn 1.2 content, but that's going to be the end of this video, so thank you for watching, I'll see you in the next one, and goodbye for now.